There is a strip of water, just 33 kilometers wide at its narrowest point. Most people couldn't find it on a map. And yet, right now, it might be the single most important place on the planet. Because every single day, 1/5 of the world's oil supply passes through here. And today, those ships stopped moving. The Strait of Hormuz. Closed. In this video, we're going to talk about what happens next. Not the politics, not the blame. The cold mechanical reality of what happens when the Strait of Hormuz closes. Because those 33 kilometers of water are connected to things you might never expect. Your heating bill, your weekly groceries, your commute to work. This is the story of the most dangerous bottleneck in the global economy. The choke point that runs the world. The Strait of Hormuz sits between Iran and Oman. It connects the Persian Gulf to the wider world. And economically speaking, it is the jugular vein of modern civilization. Every single day, around 21 million barrels of oil pass through this channel. That's roughly 20% of the entire global oil supply. 1 out of every 5 barrels burned on Earth today had to squeeze through this gap. $1.2 trillion in oil passes here every year. But oil isn't the only thing flowing through the strait. Qatar, one of the world's largest exporters of liquefied natural gas, ships almost all of it through this passage. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, Iraq. Entire national economies depend on this corridor staying open. But here's the part people rarely think about. So does yours. Because the modern global economy wasn't built for disruption. It was built for efficiency. And efficiency turns out to be incredibly fragile. Why it's closed and why the reason barely matters. Let's set the scene. Military escalation in the Persian Gulf. Iran has mined sections of the waterway. Commercial tankers have stopped entering the strait. The US Fifth Fleet, which exists largely to prevent exactly this scenario, is now engaged. And nobody knows how long this lasts. That last part is what matters, because the uncertainty alone is enough to break things. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth. The specific cause almost doesn't matter. Military conflict, a rogue attack, a catastrophic accident. Different trigger, same outcome. The moment those tankers stop moving, the clock starts. What do you think is the most realistic scenario that actually closes it? Military conflict, an accident, or something else entirely? Drop it below. This strait has been threatened many times before. During the tanker war of the 1980s, it came dangerously close, and every time it was threatened, global markets panicked. Now imagine it isn't a threat. Imagine it's done. The strait is closed. The tankers are sitting idle, and the world has perhaps 72 hours before it starts to feel it. The cascade, what breaks, and in what order? Day 1. Oil markets react instantly, not weeks. Hours. Brent crude surges. 30%, 40%, maybe more. Why? Because markets don't trade on reality. They trade on the fear of reality. And when oil moves, everything moves. Shipping costs surge because ships run on fuel. Freight costs surge, which means every physical product that travels by sea becomes more expensive. Airlines reduce flights. Manufacturing slows. Fertilizer prices spike because fertilizer is produced from natural gas. And when fertilizer becomes expensive, food prices follow. In the UK, petrol prices could jump within days. Across parts of Asia, fuel shortages could begin within weeks. And in some developing nations, electricity itself could become unreliable. Those countries feel it first. Nations where households already spend 40 to 50% of their income on food and fuel. We've seen versions of this before. When global wheat supplies were disrupted in 2022, Sri Lanka collapsed. Pakistan nearly followed. Now, imagine that scenario. but applied to oil across the entire planet simultaneously. Which country do you think gets hit hardest and fastest? The answers in the comments are going to be interesting. And what about the world's largest economies? The United States, Europe, China. They all maintain strategic petroleum reserves. The U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve currently holds around 370 million barrels. That sounds significant, but at current consumption rates, that covers roughly 18 days. 18 days. Before the most powerful economy on Earth starts making very difficult choices. And that's before you account for the fact that releasing the reserve requires logistics, infrastructure, political will, none of which moves quickly, none of which was built for a crisis that arrives this fast. The bigger picture. Fragility, dressed as strength. In 1980, a product made in China took 6 weeks to reach a shelf in Ohio. Today, it takes 9 days. We called that progress. We never asked what happens when that system breaks. We've already seen the warning signs. In 2021, a single cargo ship, wedged sideways in the Suez Canal, cost the global economy an estimated $400 million per hour. One ship, 6 days. The Strait of Hormuz is not one ship. It is 20% of the world's entire oil supply. And we built the entire global economy as if it could never, ever close. So what is the answer? The honest one? There isn't a simple one. Diversify energy sources. Rebuild strategic reserves. Invest in renewables. Not just for climate reasons, but because energy independence is national security. Reduce the single points of failure we have quietly embedded into the systems that run our lives. These are the conversations that rarely happen until the moment that forces them. And that moment may be now. The world is more interconnected than at any point in history. That is its greatest achievement and its greatest vulnerability. The Strait of Hormuz didn't suddenly become dangerous. It always was. We just stopped paying attention.